The park was unusually bright that late morning, washed in soft sunlight that made every leaf glimmer and every shadow stretch long and gentle across the grass. Birds sang freely, children ran in loud bursts of joy, and parents chatted at scattered benches. Yet in the middle of all that simple happiness, a single father named Rowan sat hunched forward, staring at the empty space beside him, as if life had carved out something essential and stolen it forever. His 5-year-old son, Jace, sat quietly at his feet, playing with a toy truck whose paint had started to peel from too many days of rough handling. Rowan's world had become a slow ache since his wife's passing, and even on bright days like this, there was a heaviness clouding his eyes. He was the kind of man who looked like he carried an invisible weight, the type that made strangers wonder what storm he had survived. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of humanity, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness right now. Your support keeps stories like these alive. As Rowan watched Jace push his tiny truck along the dirt path, he noticed a girl about 11 years old moving through the park with a careful, uneven rhythm. She had long black hair tied back in a loose ponytail, a pale yellow dress that fluttered around her knees, and a single metal crutch tucked tightly under her arm. The stump where her right leg should have been ended just above her knee, wrapped neatly in soft fabric. She moved with effort, but also with a calm determination that made her seem older than she was. Every child she passed stared in curiosity, though none dared to approach her. She scanned the benches one by one, but each seat was filled with parents, teens, and groups of kids enjoying the warm day. When her eyes landed on the bench where Rowan and Jace sat alone, something flickered across her face. Half hope, half uncertainty. She approached slowly, each shift of her crutch making a soft, hollow sound against the concrete. When she reached the bench, she paused, looked at Rowan with large, dark eyes full of both shyness and courage, and asked in the softest voice if she could sit beside them. Her question hung heavy in the air, filled with a kind of vulnerability only children with too much life experience carry. She didn't ask because she needed rest. She asked the way someone asks when they're used to being turned away. One breezy afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the trees in soft golden patches, Sarah arrived with red eyes. Rowan sensed something had happened. She refused to sit at first, insisting she didn't want to bother them today. But Rowan moved over, leaving plenty of space beside him, and after a long moment she sank down with her shoulders trembling. She didn't speak for a long while, just stared at her hands. When she finally whispered that her uncle had yelled at her for using too much food, Rowan felt anger rise in him, not at her, but at the world that had allowed a child like her to endure so much. Rowan found himself doing something he hadn't done in years, offering steady, comforting words that came straight from the heart. He told her she deserved care, that life hadn't been fair to her, and that she was stronger than she realized. Sarah listened with wide, teary eyes, as if no one had ever spoken to her with such sincerity. She leaned slightly into the bench, closer to Rowan and Jace, as if anchoring herself to the only place she felt safe. As weeks passed, something beautiful unfolded. Sarah's posture changed, her smiles came easier. The park bench became her refuge, a place where she learned she didn't need to shrink herself to be accepted. Rowan began bringing extra snacks for Jace, purposely forgetting that he had packed too much so Sarah could eat without feeling embarrassed. Jace grew attached to her, pulling her into little games that often made her laugh in a way that brightened the whole afternoon. But one midday, when the air was bright and the sky clear, Sarah didn't come. Rowan waited longer than usual, scanning the path with growing worry. When she finally appeared, he saw instantly that something was terribly wrong. She moved slower than ever, her face pale, her lips slightly swollen. Her crutch was bent, as if someone had stepped on it. She approached in small, trembling steps, and when she reached them, she sat down without speaking. Later, When Sarah finally whispered that she had fallen and broken her crutch, Rowan gently lifted the metal stick and examined it. It was beyond repair. She said she didn't want to ask for another because her uncle would be angry about the cost. Rowan swallowed hard, his heart burning with sadness and frustration. He watched her struggle to stand and knew something had to change, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. The next morning, Rowan returned to the park early with a brand new, perfectly fitted crutch. When Sarah arrived and saw it, she froze. Tears filled her eyes instantly, her breath catching in her throat. She shook her head, insisting she couldn't accept such a gift. But Rowan placed it gently beside her and told her she deserved to move through the world without pain. He told her kindness wasn't something she had to earn. It was something she was owed simply for being alive. Sarah broke down, covering her face as tears streamed freely. For the first time in years, she felt seen, valued, and cared for. She told Rowan she didn't know how to thank him, but he simply shook his head and said her smile was enough. At that moment, Jace wrapped his small arms around her, and Sarah hugged him tightly, holding on to the warmth she had long been denied. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness to support more stories that remind us of compassion. Before you go, write "Kindness lives here" in the comments to spread positivity. And with that, the sun shone a little brighter on the park. That day, a day when one simple question, "Can I sit here?" led to a bond that healed more than one broken heart.